Moving on to news in detail, we start off with news here at home. The United States says that Sri Lanka is an example to her. U.S. Congress member Frank Pallon had made this reference addressing a group of Sri Lankans in New Jersey. He heaped praise on Sri Lanka for ending the ruthless terrorist menace which had plagued the country for nearly 3 decades. He drew his attention to increasing training imparted on Sri Lankan troops. Mr. Pallon also expressed views on enhancing trade and investment between Sri Lanka and the United States. The Colombo Crimes Division will frame charges against General Sara Fonseca, Danuna Tilakaratne's mother and several others under the Exchange Control Act. It is being done on the advice of the Attorney General's Department.
Said this follows the detection by the CCD of $527,000, 100 sterling pounds and 15 million rupees concealed in 4 vaults maintained by Mrs. Tilakaratne in a private bank. The recovery was made on the 15th of last month. Mrs. Tilakaratne was quoted as saying that the cash had been deposited in a safe locker of the private bank from General Fonseca's election office at Rajakiya Mavda. According to the source, a final decision on the indictment against General Fonseca, Mrs. Tilakaratne and a few others will be taken once Attorney General Mohan Piris returns back to the island from an official engagement overseas. It said that it had gone through the dossier sent by the CCD and there is sufficient material to frame charges against them. The police will indict the suspects directly in the High Court of Colombo, as a magisterial inquiry is not required when dealing with offences committed under the provisions of the Exchange Control Act.
Sri Lanka's economy has made a remarkable turnaround. Finance Ministry Secretary Dr. P.B. Jasundar also said this is a reflection of the recovery in exports, imports, domestic construction, tourism, manufacturing activities, plantation and agriculture. He said the economic outlook has dramatically improved towards the last quarter of the year following the military victory and the global recovery. The recovery has also helped the government to enjoy improved revenue collection in the final quarter of last year. Dr. Jasundar opined that the recovery-centric improvement is likely to reduce the deficit to 7.5 in 2010. The Finance Secretary observed that it can be further improved if the public enterprise performance in key enterprises and improved revenue administration in customs and inland revenue. He added that the economic growth, which declined around 2% at the end of the first quarter of last year from around 6% in the previous year, has bounced back to 6% by the end of 2009. The Finance Ministry Secretary stressed that the delay in the release of the third IMF tranche is not a concern at this stage, as the country's international reserves remain at a very high level. Moving on, a special police unit will probe individuals tarnishing the name and the image of the President and the Defence Secretary. Police spokesman SP Prashant Jakuri said the unit is headed by DIG Crimes Anura Senanayake. It comes under the Colombo Crimes Division. The police spokesman said the unit has been established on the directions of Police Chief Mahinda Balasurya. The government's target is to attract more than 500 additional French tourists to the country before the end of the year. This has been referred to by Minister Professor G.L. Piris.
We are now emphasizing particularly specialized tourism, ecotourism. Then health tourism, we have a large number of people coming to us from Western countries. Tourism provides us with a very acceptable means of ensuring a proper distribution of resources within the country. You know, the development that has taken place in our country during the last 4 or 5 years is really quite remarkable.
The minister had a special discussion this morning at his ministry with a group representing Antipodes Travels, a leading tourist agency in France. The minister told them that a special program is already afoot to attract foreign tourists on different sectors. You're watching Prime TV News, and still at home. The Sri Lanka Air Force celebrates its 59th anniversary with pride.
The Air Force was started in 1949 after British Governor Salisbury approved a draft proposal presented by the then Secretary to Defence and Foreign Minister R.G. Senanayake to Parliament. The Royal Air Force was established on 2nd March in 1951. The Air Force became as a powerful force after operations were initiated against terrorists. It drew much attention after the Vadamarachi operation. Operation Eagle, which the Air Force mooted on behalf of the troops trapped in the Jaffna fort. This has been written in golden letters. The operation was led by the 4th Helicopter Squadron, commanded by the present Air Force Commander Air Chief Marshal Roshan Gunathilaka. The terrorists used anti-aircraft missiles against the Air Force due to the challenges it posed. The service discharged by the Air Force in the humanitarian operation was priceless. Officers and airmen belonging to several squadrons staged 16,290 raids. War analysts say that such a large number of raids within a short period is a challenge even for a powerful air force in the world. Sri Lankan Air Force is the only force in the world which carried out night raids with MiG-27 fighter jets. The terrorist targets were clearly identified and destroyed in no time. It has also rendered valuable service, assisting the ground troops while transporting military equipment. Sri Lanka is proud about the strength and the valor of her Air Force.
Pride of the Sri Lanka Air Force. Moving on. The Sri Lankan crew, including the captain of a cargo ship being held by Somali authorities, is set to be released this week. The crew held at gunpoint at a port in Berbera since September 2009 are to be released following diplomatic intervention.
Reports from Somalia said that the Panama-flagged but UAE-owned Ro-Ro cargo ship is being held at the Somaliland port of Berbera under a court order in a legal dispute between Somali authorities, cargo owners and the ship owner. The roll-on roll-off vessel MV Leila consists of 14 seafarers, 7 from India, 3 including captain from Sri Lanka, 2 from Pakistan and 2 from Somalia. The 1973-built rust bucket is apparently in a very bad shape and the condition of the vessel crew is deteriorating. The crew had asked for urgent international intervention and assistance. Diplomatic missions of India, Sri Lanka and Pakistan have also been involved. They have now all agreed to provide tickets for the evacuation of the crew already. The Indian crew have been successfully evacuated to Nairobi and the 2 Pakistanis are hopefully to follow on Friday. Reports said that the Sri Lankan captain and his mates will also have to wait another day as the captain has to first officially hand over the vessel. They will then fly out on Thursday to Sri Lanka.
An achievement of Sri Lankan. A Sri Lankan woman activist for the displaced civilians is among the 10 winners of this year's United States Department of State International Women of Courage Award.
Ms. Jansila Majid, a displaced person herself for 20 years, is one of the winners announced by the U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton yesterday. Mrs. Clinton will present the awards to the honorees at the Department of State in Washington on March 10th. The annual International Women of Courage Award started in March 2007 by former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, which recognizes women around the globe who have shown exceptional courage and leadership in advocating for women's rights and its advancement. Ms. Majid is a managing trustee of Community Trust Fund in Puttalam, which oversees a number of programs on minority and women's issues, including women's rights, peace building, relief work, working with young people and mind risk education in the north and east. Her particular focus is on uniting the Muslim and the Tamil communities in her area.
Tale about the 2 white tigers. The Devula Zoo has received a couple of white tigers. It is the latest edition. Let's take a look at this. It is a magnanimous gift granted by the Chinese government. They were born at the Tianjin Zoological Gardens. It will take time for this couple to get used to the climate of the new country, its environs, and the habitat. They live in steamy hot jungles as well as icy cold forest habitats. Now they have arrived in a country which is considered as a paradise. As such, they will soon get used to the surroundings as well as the climate. They will also be able to share their joy with the thousands of fascinated visitors to the gardens. Anyway, by staring at each other, the couple may be thinking that in whatever they are born or live, their only desire should be to live in freedom. And up next is your currency update.